Welcome to Aetherium Academy, prospective student. You have chosen to apply at the greatest and most prestigious school in all of Father. But first, we need you to complete a little combat examination before we let you in. After all, we can't let just any random adventurer into our magnificent halls. We simply need you to go through a short, easy dungeon and survive the encounter. Easy, right? We're sure you can manage it. Good luck. Now, how to start? If you are the DM, you will be starting on this side. First, you will choose your DM card. Your DM card determines how your players will experience the game. You can be a fair DM where all enemies are as listed as on the card. You can be a long-term DM where you're all about extending the game as long as possible. The unfair DM where it is your goal to make your players hate you. Or the friendly DM where it is all about making sure your players survive as long as possible. Or the trickster DM, which sows chaos among all players and the enemies they encounter. For this example, we will be using the fair DM to keep things straightforward and simple. After that, discreetly choose which boss your players will be encountering. For starters, choose the Tyrant card, as beginning players will learn the mechanics and then be able to do different bosses. Once you have selected your DM card and your boss card, you can set them off of the table and to another location. Next, set up your enemy deck. This is where you will draw from, and this is where the enemies that your players will encounter will come from. Shuffle the deck as well as you can, and then set it right in front of you. To the right of that deck, you'll set up your room deck. The room deck is where you will select the room effects that occur in player rooms. Now, if you are a player, you will be starting on this half. First, you will select which kind of character you would like to be, which is your character card. You can be a mage, which is all about magic, a medic, which is all about healing, a techno-cleric, which is a mix of healing and damage, a berserker, which is all about damaging people who hurt you, a swordsman, which is all about melee, a ranger, which is all about ranged attacks, a rogue, which is all about being fast and first, the unstable prodigy, which is about raw, unlearned magic potential, the defender, which is all about simply that, defending, or the bard, which is all about enhancing your social cards to the extreme. For this example, we will be using the swordsman card. Once you have selected your character card, all remaining character cards can be placed off of the table. Along with that, you will use one of your health counters and you'll set it to 25 HP. And then you will set up your action card deck. Your action card deck contains every action that you can do in the game. And those actions range from magic attacks to defend cards to environmental cards to melee to range to magic cards. Each card does something different. Environmental cards allow you to interact with your environment in unique ways, such as examining a room to see if there are any enemies in it, to throwing an enemy into the ground. Social cards include any form of social interaction that you can do, such as persuading, lying, intimidating, or being empathetic with a person. To the right of that deck, you will set up your wild card deck. The wild card deck includes game-changing cards that you draw every other room or under certain situations. Every time a wild card is drawn, its effects take place immediately and it stays in effect for the remainder of the game, unless otherwise specified by the card. Now, once both players have been properly set up, it is time to begin. DMs, it is up to you to decide how your players will approach the dungeon and what dungeon it is. Although the term dungeon is used, it does not necessarily have to be some form of a underground area or a deep cavern system. It can be anything from a city to a airship or anything of your imagination. Now, once you start, you will go to your enemy deck and draw 7 cards. With your 7 cards drawn, you will begin to describe the area that your players... Now, if you're a player, you'll be starting off by drawing 7 cards. When you draw your 7, you will wait for your DM to begin, and once he begins, you will start by entering the first room. Now, whenever you enter a room, DMs will roll a d6. I have a 1. On a 1 or a 2, no enemies spawn in the room. On a 3 through a 6, enemies will spawn in the room, and there can only be a number of enemies in a room equal to the number of players. So in this example, there can only be 1 enemy in the room. DMs, do your dice roll discreetly. Want your players to jump on you. So in this example, let's say that your DM places down this card. You'll select the card or the enemy card that your players will encounter, and it is up to them to determine how they will proceed. Whenever they enter a room, enemies are hidden and unknown until a player places down an environmental card. An environmental card will reveal an enemy based on that enemy's defense. So if that enemy has a 3 defense, then it will be revealed with an environmental 4 card. And in this case, the enemy revealed is an anima, and thus combat begins. Combat is based on initiative and how, or on which party sees the other first. If the players see the enemy first, then the players go first. However, if the enemy sees the player first, the enemy goes first. In this example, the player saw the enemy first, and they will start. Since this player is a swordsman, they will use a defend card to defend from the animal's attack. And DMs, all enemies have an attack stat. The animal has an attack stat of 1, meaning every time it attacks, it will deal 1 damage, unless a defend card is played. Since a defend card of 4 was played, it is completely negated. And now it's the top of the player's turn, and they will draw 1 card to refill their hand. The player will play a ranged attack of 4, which deals 1 damage. Whenever an enemy takes damage, you will place a health chip on it. When the health chip total equals its health total, that enemy is dead. So for example, if the player had went and hit the enemy again on their next turn, the animal would be defeated. Players can only play 1 attack card and 1 non-attack card per turn, meaning a player can play a ranged card and a healing card, but not a ranged card and a defend card. Once an enemy is defeated, you will simply discard that enemy, and the room counter, which is your 20-sided die, or d20, will move up by 1. Once the room die hits 20, your players will encounter the boss that you selected at the beginning. In this case, it is the tyrant. Once your players encounter the boss, they will do combat. The boss enemy is always visible in the room, and it will immediately start with the enemy going first. Once the combat is resolved, whether it be your players winning or by the boss overwhelming them, the game is complete.